Hello, and welcome to a different kind of video. Now, this is something that I mentioned in my last Dokkan video, but I have been absolutely spamming all of my free time, either working or on this game. Honkai Star Rail is probably one of the most fun games I've played in a very long time. What you're seeing in the background is just footage from a mode that they call the Simulated Universe, which is basically like a roguelike mode with like bosses at the end that you can get rewards from. And it's super fun. I absolutely adore playing it. But mainly what I want to go ahead and talk about here is all my thoughts and feelings about this game, because I feel like it is something that is definitely on the fence for a lot of people. But I just think this game is absolutely really cool. There's a lot of really interesting characters in this game. Like my favorite characters currently at the moment, I'm a big fan of Seely, who is the equivalent of like a 5-star at Dokkan Fest for my Dokkan people, who I've actually managed to pull 3 times, as well as her weapon for like that kind of thing. And she is absolutely insane. You'll see her ult here in just a second here. She is crazy. Like, she literally like mastered like the Shadow Clone Jutsu from Naruto and does absolutely ridiculous damage all the time. And it's honestly probably too broken for the game. This is a turn-based combat game, so if you're not a fan of turn-based combat, I don't think you'll probably like this. I would still give it a try. I think the combat flows really well. She should ult here in just a second. There we go. Like, this is just so cool. And then a second we're gonna see Sample's ult, who I also think is probably amazing. This is him. He is super fun. He's like a damage over time based character that just stacks and makes you do more damage to damage over time characters. He's incredibly interesting. His character itself is really funny in the story, which is another thing that this game does really well, is that there's just so much personality in this game. Like, for instance, one of my favorite facts that I've told people so far that I've learned throughout playing this game is our main character canonically eats trash and is in love with trash cans. Like, there's an entire meme going around with the community of this game right now of shipping the main character that you play as with trash cans with like faces and stuff. There's even like an entire like mini hidden side quest where if you interact with enough trash cans, you get a trash can like player icon for your profile. And it's just that kind of goofiness that I really do appreciate with these more story-based games. There's a lot of very decision-based things, right? So a lot of the options in terms of like dialogue where you have interactions with like the actual characters in the game, they give you the options to be either funny or mean or nice to them. I've chosen the funny ones almost entirely. Like, look at this. Like, there's literally a Rickroll written into the game. Like, this is real. This is not a fake screenshot. This is a real thing. It literally says, never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down, run around or desert you kind of deal, from Asked Rickley. Like, this game is just clown fest, the game, and I feel like that's not something I can really overlook. There's also a lot of things that in this game that I feel like they do take heavily from the past Hoyoverse games. If you haven't played any of them, mainly Genshin Impact is like the really big one. Also like Honkai Impact 3rd is like in the same universe thing. I don't really know. I didn't play Honkai Impact 3rd, so I can't really talk about that game too much. But what I can talk about is Genshin Impact, because I have played that game before. I know, very cringe, I'm aware. But it has very similar systems to that in terms of like getting gear, leveling up your characters, abilities, and all that kind of thing, making sure that all your characters are stronger and stronger. That way you can take on different kinds of content. There isn't really a whole lot of endgame in this game right now. I am currently, I believe at the recording of this video, level 41, which is ridiculously high because I've been spending way too much goddamn time on this game. So I do understand that that is very cringe of me to say that, hey, yes, I have been grinding a Hoyoverse game that's similar to Genshin Impact, but I promise you this game is not nearly as bad as that one. I know people like really enjoy Genshin Impact, and I used to for a while when it was newer, and then when like around roughly like the first anniversary where that kind of happened, that was like a good time for the game and I thought it was really nice. But I think that game has just fallen off and is just not in my good graces. And this game just feels a lot better to play, in my opinion, because the entire time you're playing the game, you're just going through the story, like interacting with these characters that again all have very lively personalities. My favorite character, Sampo, you find him sitting in a pile of snow hiding from the police, and then he hides in trash cans and all this other funky stuff. He eats rocks. there's an entire faction of people who eat rocks. If you've played League of Legends, the first world in the game is basically the equivalent of Piltover and Zaun, and you're basically going around trying to fix planets' cancers because they're being like corrupted by like certain evil things or whatever that are gods that are making evil stuff happen. You know, the classic, you're a hero, go to a place, fix the place's problem, move on. But like what carries it is the fact that all the characters that you meet and experience the story with are enjoyable to talk to. Like, again, Sampo, he's a dirt eater. He eats rocks. This is Seely right here is his sister, but they genuinely act like a real like pair of siblings. Like they're not like the weird anime kind of siblings. They're just, why are you being annoying kind of deal. They feel like actual people despite them being heavily overly designed anime kind of style characters, right? So there's so many things in this game that I feel like are really funny. A lot of the side quests are kind of long. A lot of the character side quests though are really interesting. Like for instance, one of my favorite ones is this little girl. Her name is Hook. She's like a major character in like the trash eater town, and like her whole deal is just being like her and her dad, who's really old and sick, and then they both just try to make each other happy because they're the only people that they have left. In her entire little story quest, she goes around, like she builds a teddy bear for him and like remakes it so that she can sell it and get money to get him a birthday present. Like it's that kind of thing that allows me to feel more invested in the story, and it has some really, really cool moments in it. I'm not going to spoil it for people who have not played the game or want to try it out, but the ending of the first world is such a cool like story moment. You have this massive cutscene, and the music in the background is just like absolutely roaring and like this kind of like rockish like theme, and it's really, really cool. And you like get a new power up and your character becomes stronger and stronger, and then you fight the boss fight and they become like a weekly boss that you can take on multiple times. And they even keep the same OST from the original boss fight during like the story mode, so it just ends up being like this really, really cool grand thing that I wish a lot more games did. Like I know in terms of like Hoyoverse games, Genshin Impact kind of does have that kind of deal, but at the same time there's not like, from what I've played of Genshin Impact, there's very few moments that actually make me feel like that, because actually getting to those moments is an absolute slog. And in this game, I don't tend to read a whole lot of dialogue, but I did find myself stopping and reading it because of just how enjoyable it is to talk to these characters again. Like one main thing, I forget, it was this whole like quest basically where you're talking with a guy who's trying to, the equivalent of someone trying to reach you about your car's extended warranty basically as a side quest, and constantly the characters that you've been talking to are like, what is this random guy texting you want? And you can just mess with them the entire time and just keep spamming the guy to send you a link to the like scam website that he has, and he just refuses to do it over and over and over and over and over again until he gets blocked. It's like one of my favorite side quests in the entire game, and I find that kind of thing really, really enjoyable. Now, in terms of it being like the play game, like the game loop kind of deal, it is very grindy, to the point where there are definitely some EXP blocks that I would say are huge and kind of annoying, that you'd have to go through before you can get to more parts of the story, and then eventually you hit a point where I am right now, where you're pretty much just playing stuff like the Simulated Universe, which is this roguelike mode, as well as a different mode that's very similar to the Abyss in Genshin Impact, if you ever played that. So there's definitely a lot of things that do feel very mind-numbing, but at the same time, I like turn-based games more than I like very slow action. Well, actually not even slow, because Genshin Impact is kind of like a fast action-paced game, but there's not a whole lot that you're actually really doing. Like my favorite character in Genshin Impact, her name is Yoi Mia, and all she does is spam the M1 button on my mouse. And it's not very engaging, is what I'm saying. And with this one, I've seen a lot of criticism of this game being like, oh, there's only really two buttons, you're just kind of spamming either the Q button or the E button. But there's a lot of different complexities that go into that, so when you boil it down to something of just hit Q or just hit E depending on what you're doing, it kind of loses some of its value, because I would say a lot of things, for instance, this Simulated Universe, these fights are hard. Now, that is not something that tends to happen in these games, and especially not for me, because like I'm pretty good at turn-based games. I've been playing them my entire life. So when it comes to turn-based combat, when you're going through the story, it is genuinely difficult. Like, there are some definite fights that I had to like try really hard not to lose, and I was doing my damnedest to keep myself alive. There's only 2 healers in the game at the moment, and one of them is free, so you don't really have to worry about that kind of aspect. But you're really struggling for a while at the beginning because everything is so much stronger than you are, and it definitely makes it feel way more fun to play through and pass these certain obstacles. And especially when it comes to the simulator universe, like the run that you're watching in the background here is my first ever completed run of the hardest difficulty of the game so far, at least that I've experienced. And it took me roughly about like 15-16 runs to finally get one where I actually beat it. And it's just such a, it feels such like an accomplishment. Like, you'll see at the very end I do like a little dance to prove that, yes, I did it, right? Like, I feel so accomplished beating things in this game, and when I see my characters do big funny number, it makes me happy. It's the same feeling that Dokkan gives me when, for instance, the new Piccolo Jr. that came out, he does like quadruple 11 million like plus attack stats and just absolutely destroys the entire game, and that makes me feel happy to see that do that. And then while he has like a million defense, that makes me happy. Celia here is the kind of character that I enjoy running in games like this, because what she does is just kind of stupid. You've been seeing it this entire time, but what she does basically is she builds up her speed and attack pretty much with how much speed she has, and will just continue to attack and attack and attack and attack and attack every time she gets a kill. So that way she she's like a reset based character in a turn based game where everything is based on the turn order. So she just ends up like breaking the foundation of like turn-based combat to fit how she feels like playing, and it's just absolutely so much fun to watch her just destroy hordes of enemies. I literally just one-shot the boss. I don't know what the freeze was there. That's something that happened during the recording of this. It was really weird, but like, that's the kind of thing that I think this game does really, really well. It's very satisfying when you do these big numbers, hit these big attack stats. It's really, really interesting. There is a couple things that I don't like too much about it, mainly, again, since this is a stamina-based game, a lot of things cost a whole lot of stamina, which is why I do really, really like the simulated universe, because it doesn't require stamina to play it. You can play it as many times as you want. You won't get like as much rewards from it every time you do it if you don't have stamina, but you are going to still get rewards. Like, it's not pointless to do, because every single time you unlock a new trait in here, you get more premium currency. So it's definitely something where you can play it over and over and over and over again and not get bored, because every single run is going to give you a different thing. As you can see, like, I was literally spamming my super ultimate from my path that I chose at the beginning of the fight just for fun, because it did an insane amount of damage. And when this happened, I literally was like popping off in my seat. You're not going to hear it, obviously, because I was recording it in silence at like 6 in the morning, because I'm a fiend and my sleep schedule was destroyed. So it was just really something that I felt really happy doing, and I do feel really passionate about this game. I think it's going to go in a really good direction. A lot of the characters are really, really cool. A lot of the stuff that they're doing is very fun to see happen. The story has been incredible so far. Amazing moments, great characters, good pacing with it. It's not too dragged out. It doesn't feel like you're in an area for way too long. There are some instances in terms of like when you're trying to go and get to the next point in the story where it does feel like it's kind of dragging a bit. That does happen. But it really does depend on your level of patience, I guess, because if you're willing to sit there and just read some story, see how these characters are developing and all that kind of stuff, you're going to really enjoy this game, and I personally really think everyone should give it a shot. Anyway, let me know how you guys feel about Honkai Star Rail in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys all in the next video.